And here we are at Ilipa. Still. Scipio opens things up using his special elite leader bonus. Made an attack on a couple lancers and a light infantry. He kind of didn't succeed as well as he'd hoped. Kind of scared the lancers off. Thought I had him pinned better than I did. One of them, though, was destroyed over here, and the light infantry sent flying back. He's got some rallying and reforming to do. He's also got this line to bring up. But other than that, I guess he can still continue fighting onward. The Triari back here dressed their line partially. They've still got a gap in it, which is going to cause a bit of a problem. Still got to get it together in order to advance fully, but the lights in front of it were kind of scattering it. In fact, Kulchas here's action. He improved one of them and attacked with another one, and ended up routing, getting a flank attack. He could have made a flank attack with this guy against these Libyans here, but had he done so, he probably would have broken on contact rather than actually hitting. He was so his units were so weakened. He doesn't have a lot of command ability. He doesn't have a lot of a chance to rally a unit, so it's kind of attack or waste your chances on things for the most part. Alright, on to some of the 3 leaders, and we've got some of those for Carthage, surprisingly, in this one. Carthaginians opened up over here, some of their light infantry attacking some of the Romans, getting some outflanks there as well, and kind of I think driving a couple of these Romans back. But then after one momentum, the second one failed. In fact, on a die roll of doom, giving Kulchas another shot, and he took flank hit there, driving some forces through the phalanx, and some skirmishers ran up and finished off some of those routing units. Now we go over to the Roman 3s. Okay, now, I think it was down here. Had some assaults. Basically, a line command was able to hit a number of places and drive off some Romans, and also hit into these heavy legionary units with mediums getting first strike in. And then over here, this Roman tribune got full 2 momentums, and he launched initially a line attack, which he had to roll for, to throw the javelins and actually engage with everyone. And we had kind of mixed results there. You can see a couple of routed units where the Romans broke through here and here. But otherwise, not a lot of movement there. These are kind of high quality medium units. They're not easily knocked out of the way by these light velites. But then he ran around and rallied a bunch of units too, which is sort of helpful as well. Alright, onward. I think we've got more Roman 3s. Well, this is becoming a downright pattern. First of all, the 3s, Rome, moved their cav around down here. They charged their cav here and slammed into these forces Dionysus has. And, I think they routed at least one, maybe a couple of these cav off the map. One of them was probably from before. And Dionysus then trumped in on the momentum, comes back with an attack, and you see some reaction to that. I don't think that's these, mainly rallied things. Yeah, I don't think he actually made an attack. He rallied his forces, bringing them up to the point where, maybe this guy could do an attack, because he's still in pretty questionable shape. And he gets a momentum. Scipio trumps in, rallies his own forces, gets a momentum. Massinissa trumps in. This is the pattern I'm talking about. As soon as someone gets a momentum over in the 4s, Scipio jumps on top of him, and then Massinissa jumps on top of Scipio. Massinissa also really just rallied and repositioned his forces to try to deal with these legionnaires up here, decided the velites are just too hard a task. But that means that if there's a line command here, and this was kind of what the Romans were hoping for, these velites can start swinging up and maybe have an effect on the battle, which they haven't really so far. So far, they've just been screening the Numidians. Here we see Bostar has kind of repelled the Roman units that had cut forward, destroying one of them. He's kind of forming up something like a line up there. Now, in reaction, Silenus is going around rallying his forces to what extent he can. This fight down here between the Elephant and the Legion, like the Massinices, Numidians and the Legion here, those aren't going anywhere. Nobody's commanding them to do that. In the case of Massinici, he was recovering. In the case here, well, Silenius could not recover these forces, but he could run around and try to help his others while they sit there and do nothing, and Bostar was not really in range to command the Elephant to order it to attack, even though it's perfectly fine. And, well, I don't know about perfectly fine, even though it could probably break that unit, but there just hasn't been the time. So we're going to see, who gets the chance to start things there again. If it's the Romans, they're probably going to roll this way. If it's Bostar, he's going to try to break the line. All right, what's left? Those are those 4s. I think that's all my 4s. Hard to keep track of everything. Oh, I didn't mention these velites did not get a line command, so he dressed the line and kind of finished it there. He did not get a momentum, so he didn't fix that unit either. So now it's on to the big boys, which I think in this case is really just Hasdrubal. I think he's all that's left, and then we can finish this up. Well, it's a little mistaken. I had Mago as well, who kind of pushed with his line. Very inconclusive, but then a couple of Roman units broke in the aftermath of the fighting. That doesn't allow advances. And then when we got to Hasdrubal, he played around with some of the heavies here, brought his phalanx up, managed to scare one of his routing units away, and he's going to lose a good unit this way. But it wasn't worth chasing it down when he's got a battle to win. Trying to rally a unit there. He's just got too much to do with these heavies here. He really needs to command them. It's kind of going to be painful because there's a lot of points here that are going over. So what do we got here? 14, 19, 31, 42, 55, 62 for Carthage. So they're doubling their score. And Rome's at 1121. So they're at 73. So Carthage is getting, they're at above the halfway point. There's still a lot of battle to go, but they've got to start really kind of worrying a little bit and not maybe letting so many units run off. I still haven't counted all the points. They're going to have more points because things like this are going to be fleeing the battlefield. Looks like the Romans have a few more they're going to be collecting as well. Well, I'll do the mechanical stuff and count those extra points in. And then we'll come back for the next turn. Okay, so Scipio starts off the new turn with an elite bonus and drives away a couple of the lights, one out here, one that way, slamming some of his units down and also recovering a little bit in the background, positioning these into that line to give it a line command at some point or another. He's planning on getting them moving, but it doesn't have to happen too soon. He does have to get them moving before his units get out of range, though, and he's forced to be dragged along to command them. For the Roman 2-point leaders, and there's only a couple of them, Kulchas back here, just really trying to strengthen those Spaniards. Make things a little better if and when the phalanx comes in. And then over here, rather than trying to move with a partial line, he's worked pretty hard to get the whole thing set up so that he can command it all at once. Well, he doesn't want to break that up, so he sent a skirmisher to fire on the heavies there rather than even try. Then we're going to be on to the threes, and there are threes over here on the Carthaginian side. Well, first I could only find one. There's a second one back here, but the first guy went here, and yeah, a little bit of action on the Romans down here. Not a lot of movement, but he did manage a flank attack in here and struck one of the Roman units back. Got this interesting lost Roman somewhere. Trying to look for him back here. Kind of caught between enemy lines. And then Marcius managed to get a line command and move forward. Drove away that Numidian cav that was harassing them with using the Velites. He didn't get a continuation. Didn't really have a lot to do with it. These are all moved, but brought the cav up as well. And then up here, the second Carthaginian, questionable three-point leader, smacked in, hit, drove back some of the Romans, and did a little bit of recovery himself. Goes over to the Romans tribune, just really rallying those Spaniards and making them be more of a hassle than they were a moment ago. There was an attempt to trump in after he got momentum, which Bostar failed at. That leaves him unable to really react and continue smacking into Silanus's legion back here. Finishing off the Roman three-pointers, we had Tribune Cassius here ordering all his Velites, who've been locked in combat with these medium infantry for a while, to attack again. And they'd been holding their own, but this time they just had too much, and you can see the quality on these mediums here, at least some of them. They just broke most of that line. And now there's this big gaping hole in the Roman line, kind of towards the center here. The Triarii have filled the other weak spot where the Spaniards were, but these Velites covering have not been able to do their job, and maybe should have just been left alone. If there was a Carthaginian leader in this area, and the nearest one seems to be Hasdrubal over here, and then good old replacement over here. If there was a Carthaginian leader around there, the Romans would be in some trouble, but right now they just don't have the leaders for Carthage. Now there's a abundance of leaders up here, I think, with 3 of them in this general area. Of course, this is where the Carthaginians are getting hammered probably the worst, and there's a deficit of troops there and maybe a need for leaders, but at this point maybe having a leader down here would have been more helpful. Speaking of which, the Praefect Equatorium attacked over here, only getting one action. He rallied some of his forces. He smashed one of his cav into one of the Spanish lancers down here, destroying it and essentially chasing it off map. You'll see. We got another Roman cav off map here. All right, we're on to the 4s, and the Carthaginians have to go first out of them. Well, speaking of that idea, Dionysus does a little bit of rallying here and then runs his way down using a momentum, rallies some of these forces, and positions himself down here to try to take advantage of that hole. Try to turn things around where there's already a Roman leader, but a real strength comparatively in terms of the troops the Carthaginians have available. If they can use this effectively, they might be able to get rid of the Triarii line or clear things out on this side and form a significant force to cope with what Scipio's got in place. I don't know. We'll see. And then the big trumping chain comes. Mago, I don't know what he did. He kind of rallied his forces. I think he may have launched a little bit of an attack, not much of one. Gets trumped by Scipio. Scipio rallies some of his forces and drives forward, smacking some of the Iberians out of the way. Gets trumped by Massinissa. Comes in and drives off some of the Velites, opening up that legionnaire area. Now, somewhere in here, Silanus went, I don't think he got trumped. He may have, rallying some of those forces. I think he may have been the beginning of this whole chain. And I think he did get trumped, actually. And then Massinissa got no continuation. I don't think there was anyone to trump him. I think he just failed. But then we go over to Hasdrubal, who failed to get a continuation as well. but ended up launching some small attacks to push some of the stuff out of the way so that he can get at the Triari line, so that he can maybe command at least something of a line order to hit them straight on. Try to clear the way for those phalanx units so that they can brush through. He's got to get these things moving too. He's really got to get a lot of the stuff out of the way to bring the phalanxes into line. I'd rather have them hit first because it's kind of a pain in the butt to assemble, to try to coordinate the entire battle, waiting for them to get an attack that they could have made almost instantly had they been in the front line. But of course, they're a pain to recover once they hit too. So maybe they're a great final blow. I find them too hard to maneuver, and I would rather have them in the front. If it was free setup, they would have been there. All right, I'll come back after the mechanical and paying the points is taken care of. Well, here's pretty much our battlefield scene. Romans look like they're holding up here. For a while, it looked like they may have been breaking there. I think they've got enough that they're not going to lose there. Over here, a lot of strength in that Triari line, some strength ahead of it, but a lot of strength facing it as well. More than the Triari actually are once you get the phalanxes into play. These Spaniards aren't doing much except making a traffic jam that's helping prevent the phalanxes from moving forward. Here, though, big breach. And you can see the running Romans velites, but that's just wide open pretty much for the Carthaginians. There's a couple of Romans velites in place here. Try to prevent that from being a complete disaster. Over here, not much better. You got some Romans, heavy units, but they're kind of hanging out in the open. Just one velite protecting them over here. Lights coming around the front. But here, Scipio has totally won the day, pretty much. It's just a question of how much it's going to cost him to break through there. So right now, it's actually, tactically, it looks like still an interesting battle. But when we start looking at the points, it gets more painful. We already had a high Carthaginian problem in points, and then we look at what we've just lost here, which is another 15, 22, 26 points. That's going to put me up to 163. That's going to be hard to come back from, even if, the whole tactical feel of the battle were to sort of drive in Carthage's favor. There's still places where the Romans have enough advantage that they can probably break the army here. And just from the losses that Carthage is going to take from trying, to fight the battle, even if they are going to win, or even if it looks like they're winning, you still take casualties. You take troops running off the board across in various places, and that's going to cause a problem. This is a Roman unit actually, but so I think the Romans have won this one, but it's certainly not the victory that Scipio actually had. All right, this one's going up.